Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Cabinet meeting of Shropshire Council, Wednesday the 20th of October 2021. I'm sure, like me, you were all shocked and saddened by the killing of Sir David Amess MP, and I will, on behalf of Shropshire Council, be sending a letter of condolence to the Speaker of the House. I read a statement the other day made by one of the MPs that said, "David and I entered the House on the same day. We hardly ever agreed on anything, and yet we never had a cross word." It reminded me that whilst we might not always agree with each other all of the time, or even some of the time, we should always treat each other with respect. And this respect should be across all platforms, whether in person or online. I'm also reminded by our local police that whilst we may not be as high profile as our MPs, we too should take every care with our own safety and always remain vigilant. And there will be new information and guidance supplied by the Local Government Association on the Members' Gateway in the next few days. So, on to the business of the day. So, I'll find my council agenda, that would help. Apologies for absence, Amanda. I don't believe we have any.
I understand that Simon Jones may be running late, but no other apologies.
No, we are expecting him to be here as soon as he possibly can. Thank you, Amanda. Item number 2, disclosable pecuniary interests. Anyone? No hands in the room. Thank you. 3, the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 8th of September 2021. I'm happy to propose those minutes. Do I have a seconder? Ed, thank you very much indeed. Everybody in favour of those minutes? Thank you. On to item number 4, public question time. We have 2 public questions, both from Mr. Stephen Malloy. Mr. Malloy is not with us today, so they will be read out by the, what is your title now? The interim something or other?
Assistant Director, Legal and Democratic Services.
Like he said, the Assistant Director for Legal and Democratic Services, Tim, I do apologise. Tim's going to read out the question.
So this question is, as said by the leader, from Stephen Malloy. Agenda item 7 deals with customer feedback, which includes complaints, and the report says that the learning and actions that are identified through the complaints investigations are used to improve service provision. So, could I ask the leader, 1, what learnings and actions will be taken from the experience of the complaint set out below? 2, how will it be used to improve service provision? And 3, whether complaints to the Development Planning Department are included in the report statistics, and if not, why not? Now, the example complaint Mr. Malloy set out, I will read out in full. So, on the 18th of October 2020, complaint to planning enforcement regarding highway safety. 9th of December 2020, concern dismissed, stage 1 corporate complaint raised. 21st of December 2020, no acknowledgement, so had to chase. Acknowledgement received. 8th of February 2021, no response, so chase. 3rd of March 2021, same again. 14th of March 2021, same again. 19th of March, same again, so had to ask to escalate to stage 2. 23rd of March 2021, response to stage 1, factually incorrect. 24th of March, escalated to stage 2. 31st of March, acknowledgement received. 3rd of May, no response, chase. 13th of May, stage 2 response, agreed there was factual error. Initial response to be reviewed and replied on the 21st of May. 7th of June, no response, chased. 1st of September, no response, chased again. 29th of September, no response, chased again. 20th of October, raised this public question to Shropshire Council's Cabinet.
Thank you, Tim. And the response will be provided by Councillor Rob Gittins, who is the portfolio holder for digital technology, data and insight, which also includes our complaints procedure. Councillor Gittins.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your questions to the Malloy. I will now read out the Council's response. The timeline Mr. Malloy set is related to both the complaint and the planning enforcement case, but delays were experienced and we do apologise to Mr. Malloy for those delays. Outcomes and learning are captured where appropriate for each complaint, We would not comment on specific learning by a particular case in a public forum, but would cover this within a complaints letter sent to the complainant. The annual complaints report covers all the departments, but it should be noted that there is a difference between a planning enforcement case and a complaint. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gittins. The second question, Tim.
Also from Mr Malloy. This council's Invest in Shropshire team are promoting the urban extension of Bicton as a development opportunity and say the Shrewsbury West Sustainable Urban Extension is a major mixed-use development opportunity. Investments including the construction of the new Oxon Link Road, and also that the North West Relief Road will complete the arterial route around Shrewsbury. Whilst the development may be an opportunity, is it not predetermination and misrepresentation to refer to that opportunity being enabled by the construction of a new Oxon Link Road when it does not have planning permission? And should the North West Relief Road not be described as proposed, as that also does not have planning permission and probably never will?
Thank you, Tim. The response will be provided by Councillor Ed Potter, responsible for planning and economic growth.
Thank you for your question. Invest in Shropshire and the wider Economic Growth Service work to promote the opportunities for business investing, relocating and expanding within Shropshire. Part of this remit includes promoting the potential opportunities available to investors, developers and occupiers both now and in the future across Shropshire Council owned land and sites that are owned by local landowners and developers. Any sites that are put forward in promotional materials, whether this be online or through printed collateral, would not be used to predetermine or misrepresent the planning process, with the language used such as proposed, as you have highlighted, stating this case. Any engagement with occupiers and developers would include informing on the situation on planning, whether this be the position of the local plan process or individual planning applications for sites or infrastructure that would allow any developer to end occupier to make informed decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. That's the end of public questions. We now move on to members' questions. And the first question comes from Councillor Bernie Bentic, who is online with us. Just to tell you, Councillor Bentic, that at the moment Simon Jones is still not with us, so the answer to your question will be provided by Councillor Dean Carroll. But over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Madam Chair, members and officers, the proposal for a single health hub in Shrewsbury has raised concerns in the local community and threatens the future of all GP practices. Whilst recognising the reported pressures on general practice in terms of increasing demand, recruitment and retention, and the expanding range of services expected to be offered in the community, we also see from the public increased dissatisfaction with primary care services. Shrewsbury has always seen high levels of satisfaction with general practitioner services, and one thing that patients value is a local, easy access to services with doctors, nurses and receptionists and allied professionals that they know. We are concerned that the proposals by the Shrewsbury, Telford and Wrekin Clinical Commissioning Group, hereafter referred to as CCG, to bring together so many GP services into one health hub has been developed without full public participation and could result in the closure of many GP practices. The limited consultation for 1 month during September 2021 was wholly insufficient for the following reasons. Under the NHS Act 2006, as amended by the Health and Social Care Act 2012, CCGs and NHS England have duties to involve the public in commissioning under sections 14Z2 and 13Q respectively. Thus, under the above Act, our CCG must make arrangements to involve individuals in the development and consideration of proposals that have an impact on how services are delivered, including health hub proposals. By avoiding the early consultation on options and presenting a single option, we don't believe that this has occurred. It would be useful to see the quality impact assessment and more so the equality impact assessment of the CCG's proposals and of other possible options. We are also concerned that the public aren't being given the opportunity to be consulted in the planning and commissioning of these services, as required under Section 13Q of the NHS Act. Also, any consultation should also abide by the gunning principles, namely, 1, that the consultation must be at a time when proposals are still at a formative stage. 2, that the proposer must give sufficient reasons for any proposal to permit intelligent consideration and response. 3, that adequate time is given for consideration and response. And 4, that the product of consultation is conscientiously taken into account when finalising the decision. As the current proposals stand, there appears to have been little, if any, engagement in the development of the ideas, no publication of the methodology, no clear consideration of other options, and no QIAs or EQIAs done on the proposals, let alone other options for GP provisions across Shrewsbury. These proposals are significant and would result in a major change in how commissioned primary healthcare services are provided. And we believe that these changes should trigger a formal consultation process. Everyone will need GP services at some point or multiple points during their lives. And as this proposal fundamentally alters how these services will be accessed, the public need to be involved, need to be able to say how these changes will impact on them, but also they need to understand the pressures and threats that have led to these proposals. Better involvement, communication, and ultimately consultation is integral to facing the challenges in the health service and developing new models of care. And so my question to Shropshire Council is, will Shropshire Council publish a detailed report on the discussions held with Shropshire, Telford and Wrekin Clinical Commissioning Group, its Primary Care Committee and its predecessors regarding the proposed health hubs, and request for full formal consultation on any proposed changes to primary health care, including health hubs at all appropriate stages, including early planning, and before any changes are agreed by the CCG in accordance with statutory legislation. And Madam Chair, I would like to reserve my right for supplementary questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Bentinck. As I say, unfortunately, Simon's not yet with us, so Councillor Dean Carroll is going to respond on his behalf. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Bentinck, for the question. The response that has been agreed by the portfolio holder is as follows. There are a number of health hubs being discussed and developed locally by NHS colleagues. These include the Shrewsbury Health and Wellbeing Hub, which is a new facility that could open in autumn 2024 and bring a range of health and wellbeing services together, including up to 8 GP practices, and a community diagnostics hub. In addition, the wider primary care strategy within which these programmes may sit is also being developed. The stage of development of these proposals and strategies varies. The Shrewsbury Health and Wellbeing Hub proposals and plans will be taken through Shropshire, Telford and Wrekin CCG governance at the Primary Care Commissioning Committee. Public questions can be received in writing through the CCG governing body on this and other issues. From a Shropshire Council perspective, Reference to the Shrewsbury Health and Wellbeing Hub was included as part of the regular integrated care system update to the Health and Wellbeing Board in September 2021 for the first time. The expectation is that regular updates will be brought to the board. The primary care strategy has and continues to be an area which Health Overview and Scrutiny review in conjunction with the Health and Wellbeing Board. This will provide detail on the direction of local primary care services within Shropshire, including resources and types of service. We await further details on this strategy. In addition, Shropshire Council officers have been invited to the Shrewsbury Health Hub Board and subcommittees meetings that are and are being established by the CCG to inform the development of the projects. The engagement and consultation process on proposals are determined by NHS England and the CCG. From the Health and Wellbeing Board in September, we understand a listening exercise has been launched. The data from the listening exercise will be reviewed regularly and a formal report produced at the end of the process to inform clinical modelling going forwards. A formal consultation will be launched in November when more details are known. This was outlined in the report to the board, which is attached to the answer. At this stage, we do not have any further details, but I will formally request this through the boards and governance arrangements and will make a commitment to share this with members and the public. I will also commit to challenge where we do not think this is robust enough. In addition, at the September Health and Wellbeing Board, the Director of Public Health asked that a full integrated impact assessment be carried out on proposals, and members of the board also asked that come to Health Overview and Scrutiny. Detailed reports will be provided prior to the scrutiny meetings.
Thank you, Dean. Councillor Bentinck, did you want to come back?
Thank you, Councillor Carroll, and thank you, Madam Chair. Would Shropshire Council Cabinet also please advise whether the preferred site or sites include the Meal Retail Park located at or near the Park and Ride site?
Councillor Carroll's going to come back on that point with some prior knowledge.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Yes, I can come back with perhaps 6 weeks out of date health knowledge, but with very current assets and estates knowledge to say that no decisions have yet been made, but as part of the One Public Estate programme, we actively review all locations within our ownership that may be of benefit to any programme with our health colleagues and other public sector bodies, as they do with us.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. So moving on to the second question, which I believe comes, is it from Councillor David Rasmer?
Correct.
Oh, he's joining us in the room. Hello, David.
Hello. Yes, my question is, Roads Minister Baroness Veer has announced that local authority transport plans will need to set out how quantifiable carbon reductions will be achieved, and that funding will be dependent on those plans being robust, ambitious and achievable. As a result of this government policy, 1, will Shropshire lose funding because the planned North West Relief Road will contribute an extra 48,000 tonnes of carbon for an operational saving of 350 tonnes of carbon per year, meaning that it will be carbon neutral in 130 years. 2, will LTP4 include quantifiable carbon reduction plans? 3, how will carbon reduction be achieved in the absence of any meaningful investment in active travel, following the recent vote against increased spending on active travel at the last council meeting?
Thank you, Councillor Vasmer. We haven't planned this very well. Sorry, Councillor Carroll, this is your question.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Vasmer, for the question. So if I may, I'll answer each. I think there were 3 separate definable questions in there, so I'll answer them each in turn. Firstly, coming on to whether Shropshire Council would lose funding, the response to that is that the council has not had visibility of the detail behind this proposal to be able to respond, but the North West Relief Road should be considered as part of the broader opportunities it enables to reallocate cycling, walking and bus infrastructure in Shrewsbury, and the overall net carbon benefit it can potentially offer, rather than just focusing on the North West Relief Road in isolation. In response to the question about whether LTP4 will include quantifiable carbon reduction plans, The Council is firmly committed to encouraging carbon reduction, and we await confirmation on the details behind the government's new approach and will ensure that these are considered within the development of LTP4. And finally, whether on the question of how will carbon reduction be achieved in relation to active travel, the government provide plenty of opportunities for local authorities to bid for funding to develop carbon reduction initiatives above and beyond the core allocation that is provided to local authorities. The success for accessing these funds will be very dependent on the quality of authorities' local transport plans, local cycling and walking infrastructure plans, bus strategies, EV charging strategies, etc. And resources have been made available to ensure that quality plans are developed to enable the authority to best position itself to access the funding that is available.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Basler?
Yes, thanks very much for that quick answer to my question. You said in reference to question 1, there's no detail yet from the government as regards to their policy, which I've outlined. You know, if the detail does come forward and they do say that they will reduce funding because councils are not making a big enough contribution to carbon reduction, would you review your commitment to the North West Relief Fund?
Councillor Carroll?
Thank you for the supplementary question. I would be surprised and extremely disappointed if government decided to pull the rug out from under a scheme that they already funded and has been co-funded by the LEP, by Shropshire Council and developer contributions. So we will wait and see. The devil will be in the detail, but I would be very disappointed if they attempt to apply that retrospectively to a scheme that's already been granted funding.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. The next question is from Councillor Ruth Houghton, and I believe that Councillor Basler is going to ask that question. Sorry, taking you on the hot there.
No, I forgot about that. Thanks very much. Given the recent media coverage on the recruitment issues facing the care sector, what is Shropshire Council doing to ensure that vulnerable, disabled and older people in Shropshire continue to receive good quality, person-centred care and that staff are fairly remunerated for providing this care and support?
Thank you, Councillor Basler. And again, as Simon's still not with us, Councillor Dean Carroll.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, David, for the question. As our members are aware, the UK is experiencing a national crisis regarding the recruitment and retention of care staff. Skills for Care have recently reported that 105,000 jobs are being advertised on an average day in 2020-21, with sick days almost double from the previous year. Shropshire is no different and also experiencing workforce pressures impacting our ability to place people in a timely way to more suitable services within the community that best meets their assessed needs. The current rates Shropshire pays are comparable with neighbouring authorities and certainly the highest in the West Midlands for domiciliary care to support people to remain at home. It is important to note that no one is left without care. Shropshire Council are currently targeting reviews to free capacity to ensure those who need care receive it, working with our health and care partners and the wider council regarding a robust recruitment campaign to drive the message to the marketplace regarding engaging people with the right values and skills to seek employment in the sector, seeking opportunities to work with education and apprentice schemes to attract workers to care and putting the value back into care, offering incentives for providers to take on care packages, but they are one-offs at the point of brokerage in order to incentivise packages being picked up, supporting care partners to have in place contingency plans regarding staffing, but drawing on wider resources where they can and in seeking to ensure that they are all working together to provide support. Commissioning block care, offering further stability as we enter the winter period. For example, we have commissioned 16 winter pressure beds. Targeting reviews to free capacity to ensure those who need care receive it. Investing in our START reablement support service to support those being discharged from hospital. The council is also working with partners to prevent admission into hospital and or social care through a variety of methods, including focus on reablement, strengths-based practice, information and advice, linking people to their communities, social prescribing, any activities that improve wellbeing. The council also has some pilot schemes on technology which is proving to reduce the need for care so we can target resources elsewhere. the council has a winter plan which also has commission support from the voluntary and community sector to support people to get home or remain home. I hope this answers your question, and please do not hesitate to come back to us for further clarification on any of the points.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Basma?
Thanks very much for that very detailed answer, which is very useful. I just wondered if the portfolio holder can provide an assurance that staff working in Old Shropshire Council Commission care work are being paid above the minimum wage, and our health partners are taking appropriate actions to maintain their staffing levels and recruitment. This is especially important with the recent unexpected temporary closure of Bishop's Castle Community Hospital on the grounds that it has not been possible to recruit qualified staff to operate this service safely.
Dean?
Thank you. I think we'll have to provide you with a full written response to that question. But in terms of, hold on, I'm getting further information through actually. Shropshire rates to providers are higher than regional average, whilst rates of pay in 2021 are lower. We had previously recommended higher rates of pay to providers and continue to monitor what they pay staff. Further work is being planned on this as part of the 2022-23 review of uplifts. So hopefully that addresses the question of staff pay. In terms of Bishop's Castle Community Hospital, I think we were all disappointed and concerned to read of the temporary closure there. Of course, that is run by Shropshire Community Health Trust and not by Shropshire Council. And in some cases, of course, the range of skills required for staff at a community hospital are different to the range of skills required in residential and domiciliary care settings.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll get a written response back to Councillor Houghton on that point, David. Final question comes from Councillor Roy Allcroft, who's joining us online. Councillor Allcroft, would you like to put your question?
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and fellow councillors. I'm a little concerned to know more about the nature of the complaints about education and children's services referred to the Ombudsman, and that was referred to in the customer feedback annual report. Could the Cabinet member for children's services expand on the information in that report? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allcroft. The response will be from Councillor Hurst-Knight, who is the portfolio holder for Children's Services and Education.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Allcroft, for your question. There were 9 complaints for education and children's services referred to the local government and social care ombudsman from 2020 to 2021. 8 of those were considered and decided. Of the 8 complaints, 3 were upheld. 1 was referred to Shropshire Council and 4 were given advice and then referred to Shropshire Council. For the 3 upheld complaints, Shropshire Council has worked to implement the recommendations. The compliance report provided by the Ombudsman records all 3 cases with the remedy achieved dates. None of the 5 cases given advice were referred back to local level were open with Shropshire Council. This may be because the advice was adequate and they decided not to pursue a complaint further. I've sent over the details of this answer to you, Councillor Allcroft, but hope that answers your question.
Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Allcroft?
No, I think that covers it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Kirsty. So moving on to item number 6, scrutiny items. I don't believe there are any scrutiny items coming forward to us today. So that takes us on to the main body of the meeting. Item number 7, annual customer feedback report. The report is being presented by Councillor Rob Gittins, portfolio holder for digital technology, data and insight. Councillor Gittins.
Thank you very much, Leader. The annual customer feedback report is a public document covering formally recorded feedback, including complaints and compliments received by the council for the period 1st of April 2020 to the 31st of March 2021. The report is important as it gives a real sense of whether we are getting things right as a council, and is something that I and the Cabinet will be considering closely over the coming months and years. The report complements more frequent internal performance reporting and allows for a better understanding of the long-term trends and changes. 2020-2021 was an unusual year with the pandemic influencing changes in customer interactions with the council. 2,615 cases of formal feedback were recorded in total, and a additional 398 MP inquiries were also responded to. Over recent years, the overall trend shows growing volumes of customer feedback, including complaints. The totals for 2020-2021, however, were very similar to the previous year. We have seen an increase in compliments, with more members of the public reporting how they value the services provided by the local authority under very difficult circumstances. There were 614 complaints formally recorded compared to 405 the year before. This is truly remarkable considering the pandemic, and staff in the council as a whole should be really proud of what we've accomplished. The number of complaint investigations reduced by almost 800 from 1,883 to 1,091. This is subject to some fluctuations since one case may result in multiple complaint investigations, and early resolution can reduce the need for investigation. Next year's data will be valuable in understanding whether the year wasn't unusual or if we are seeing a change in feedback overall. Complaints handling remains effective at early stages, with fewer complaints escalating beyond stage 1. 50 cases were considered by the Ombudsman in 2020 to 2021, and of those 8 were upheld. This suggests fewer cases progressed to the Ombudsman. The previous year saw 85 cases were considered and 11 were upheld. The Ombudsman did not take on any new casework for 3 months due to the pandemic. So again, it is important not to draw too many conclusions and consider the data for the next full year. The covering report provides a more comprehensive overview, and the full report may be helpful in illustrating the nature of the feedback, including nominalised examples of compliments, complaints and learning and actions. What I would do is ask the Cabinet to consider recommendations as laid out in section 3.1 of the Officer's report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gittins. Do I have a seconder for that report?
Second, Chairman, yes.
Thank you, Councillor Motley. Councillor Mosley, I understand you want to speak on this matter.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for the report. I expect the circumstances mean that the results of it are pretty atypical, so we'll be looking for some reference points when the situation resumes back to normal. But there are references within it to complaints from MPs, and I couldn't see any further information about that. And I know that there probably is differences between our MPs in terms of the level of complaints and how many. Would it be possible to have a report on that, please? I know that I'm interested. I know that many residents would be interested to hear how active their MPs are on taking up issues within their area, and it would be useful to know who is making complaints or compliments for that matter, what they are about, and how many of these occurrences actually are recorded. So is that possible to have an addendum to the report that itemises the work of our MPs, please?
Thank you, Councillor Mosley. Councillor Gittins.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Mosley. Yes, I don't see why not, really. I'd be happy to ask officers to obviously contact the MPs and provide a little more information around that for you.
I think it's fair to say, Councillor Mosley, that if they've gone through the formal complaint system, that information can be drawn together quite quickly. I think there's a difference sometimes. I think MPs send in a lot of emails, but I don't think all of them, or hopefully not all of them, end up in a complaint system. Councillor Vasma.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to say, on the basis of the report, that it shows, and it's a difficult period, obviously, and it's very difficult to draw conclusions. But I mean, the increase in compliments by 51% is really remarkable, and I think is a great recognition of the efforts, the sterling efforts made by all the staff. So I'd just like to put that on record, really. And so, secondly, I'd just like to say that, as always with these reports, and we've had them, obviously had them annually, the highways and transport is always worrying, although there has been a slight reduction in complaints. And also this year, I'd like to note on that if you look on page 20, about the planning that seems to be becoming more of an issue, particularly with the Ombudsman. And as the leader knows, I have got concerns about the operation of planning. And I think that it obviously highlights that there is work to be done in that area.
Thank you, Councillor Vasma. I certainly echo your comments about the number of compliments. I think it does go to show how much just public valued what our staff did, throughout the pandemic and continue to do. And it's nice, isn't it, that people actually take the time to they're very quick to complain sometimes, but it's really nice when they take the time to do a compliment. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Leader. Just for members' information to pick up on something that Councillor Vasma said about highways complaints, and yes, we can understand why I think that those have been high over the last couple of years. But for members' information, since the 19th of April, in the 6 months from the 19th of April to the 19th of October, we'd filled in over 15,000 potholes. And the backlog of potholes has now fallen from over 12,000 at the end of last winter to now 4,500, and continues to reduce by several hundred each month, thanks to the investment that all of the members of Shropshire Highways Alliance, ourselves, Kia and WSP, have made in new technology. 4 Roadmasters, multi-hogs and tax patch are all new and increasingly efficient and effective ways of sealing potholes and preventing them from recurring, and also our intervention in putting in 4, now rising to 5 road gangs to repair potholes in the traditional way. So I thank Councillor Vasma for pulling that point out and giving me the opportunity to update members on the progress we've made.
Thanks, Councillor Carroll. Again, it's not gone unnoticed in my inbox that I've actually had quite a number of compliments regarding the highways teams and the work that they're doing at the moment. Councillor Potter.
Just touching on the comments around the planning service, there is a piece of work ongoing at the moment, led by the Assistant Director, for Strive for Excellence within our planning service within Shropshire Council. It is an issue that I know many members will see come through their inboxes, and of course there is disappointment from members of the public if they don't achieve the outcome that they such like. However, I can assure members that a piece of work is ongoing at the minute in light of pressures that the planning service has had with an increased number of applications over the last few months. And as we have emerged from the pandemic, applications have increased. That a process to strive for excellence within the planning service is underway, and there's a plan in place to improve the customer service that is experienced by the residents of Shropshire and their representatives.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. We've got any more hands? So we have a proposer and a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to item number 8, Councillor Gullen Butler, business rate relief and council tax discretionary discount policy review.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, you have before you a routine report where previously we have agreed to review this policy every 3 years. As we are all aware, we are in a time of turbulence still. We do not know how the economy is going to come out of COVID or what the health implications are going to be this winter. When looking at actually whether to do this review this year, I also looked at the collection rates for our council tax and business rates for the previous 12 months, which was a whole 12 months of COVID. And I can advise council and members that our collection rate to the end of the financial year, March 21, for council tax was 97.73%. And our business rate, for those who still have to pay business rate, because there was a lot of relief, was 98.65%. And it just shows how robust we have been over the last 12 months, to which I thank the officers. I think it is the right thing to do, Leader, that we just defer this until the next financial year, when hopefully, with a good wind, we will be in more normality. And this report is very much steady as she goes. And I move the recommendation of 3.1 to review it in 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. I'm happy to second that report. Do I have any questions on that one? Fine, in which case, all those in favour? Thank you very much. That report is now passed. Moving on to number 9, discretionary housing payment policy review. Councillor Gwen Butler.
Yep. Bear with me, Leader, my laptop is just loading. Again, Leader, this is another one where we were looking at doing a review. But we've decided, again, because of the turbulence that we're in, that we just approve the with a commitment to review the policy to be taken every 3 years and leave it as it is for the time being. I can say that we have had a really good uptake in the discretionary housing payments, over 99%, and we've recently received further funding from government, which Toyin is working on to bring forward. And I would urge all members to promote the discretionary housing payment scheme moving forward. I move the recommendations in 3.1 just to approve the policy with a commitment to review every 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Potter. I'm not seeing any requests to speak. My machine's doing something strange. Moving on. No, it's not just you, Councillor Butler. All those in favour of that report? Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to item number 10, the annual health and safety performance report 2020 to 2021. Councillor Gwen Butler.
Thank you, Leader. Before I actually go to move the recommendations to note this report, I'm very pleased to report that we have my deputy portfolio holder, Jeff Anderson, joining us remotely. I'm very pleased to report that Jeff has been working on health and safety for the council since the election in May. He's been doing a splendid job, and he's going to become the health and safety champion for our organisation, which the staff are very pleased about, as well as everybody else. So before I actually move the report, I'd like to bring Jeff in to actually present it, Leader, if I may.
You certainly can. Councillor Anderson, welcome.
Thank you, Gwilym. Thank you, Leader. The Health and Safety Annual Report, it's written by Carol Fox and her excellent team. The report reviews the health and safety performance for the year 2020-2021. It details key health and safety challenges for the council, and it also gives details on the progress on last year's annual report. Headlines: the whole year was dominated by obviously the COVID pandemic, and a great deal of health and safety work involved supporting the pandemic response, such as PPE distribution, guidance and risk assessment support to all council services and schools. And to give you an idea, risk assessments were written for 88 schools, so it's a huge amount of work. The other major event that happened in this period was obviously the floods, and this occurred in January 21, and a large amount of advice and support was given to all those involved in flood defence. Looking at the year in terms of accidents, and although obviously it's a very strange year in view of COVID, RIDDOR numbers, that's the reportable incidents, were down by only 1 from the previous year at 15, but the total accidents were down significantly at 431 compared to 787 from the previous year. And obviously the pandemic had a major impact on these figures. But I think importantly, although all RIDDORs are very serious, there was no truly serious RIDDORs that occurred in the year. And there was no health and safety executive involvement or enforcement activities during this period. However, as you might guess, we can't remain complacent. Breaking down the accident figures, if you actually look in the two principal groupings, the usual group slips, trips, falls had 33 incidents. But I think slightly more disturbing was the 32 violent incidents that occurred during the year. And I believe work needs to be done on this area because obviously the potential for serious injury is certainly in this area. Violent incidents to employees are commonly caused by challenging behaviour of service users and pupils with additional needs. Also, if you start to analyse the report, you'll spot that the stress levels during this period went up significantly. The percentage of stress-related absences rose by 4%, from 26% to 30%. And obviously the health and safety team has been highly active in this area, arranging for counselling services for those involved, undertaking stress risk assessments, bit of a tongue twister, and management training. This is obviously not surprising, this increase in stress-related absences. Obviously with the pandemic, people are forced to work from home, which is a very unusual environment to work in, well, it was initially. And obviously, because of all the issues relating to the pandemic, the workload has gone up. The council staff have been supported by the health and safety team during this difficult time through robust range of wellbeing initiatives, including webinars, access to self-help podcasts, and support from occupational health and counselling services. The next 12 months will continue to see new health and safety challenges in light of COVID-19 and the resultant financial climate. The pandemic forced a lot of health and safety work to be remote and Teams meetings, etc. And clearly, once infection levels lower, the health and safety team will need to increase their level of working in the field. At the moment, a lot of the work is done remotely and things can be missed, obviously. So in conclusion, the health and safety team realise in these difficult times it's important to remain focused on risk management and sensible risk management. Risks should be managed sensibly, appropriately and proportionately. And I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank Carol and her team for the splendid job they've done in the last 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Jeff, for a very thorough report and bringing that forward. And I echo your thoughts for Carol and the team. And I am aware that they have been awarded foundation status with the West Midlands engine on health. Therefore, I would like to move the recommendations in 3.1, noting the contents of the report are accepted, and in 3.2 to agree the key actions for 21-22 are agreed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Do I have a second for that? Councillor Carroll. I have a question from Councillor Vasma.
Yes, thanks. Just a quick question. A reference was made in this excellent report to the unusual factor of people working at home, and I'm very have doubts about the council's policy, which encourages people to work at home and pays them extra if they do so. And I wondered whether they would be willing to, whether the council would be willing to review that policy and make it equal for people working both at home and in Sharjah.
Shall I come back on that later? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Vasma. It is something that is always on my mind, and I know agreement has been reached with the unions and the staff for a 12-month period, looking at working from home and the extra cost involved, etc. I am also very aware of the health and safety implications when staff aren't being physically managed by other officers and the risks that might be involved, and I constantly take that up with Sam. Now, the issue regarding the payments, if you're in Shire Hall to match as if you're in home. It is something that could be looked in the budget review, but again, anything will have to be funded. And we need to make sure that we have the provision within that and agreement with the unions on how we move forward. However, with the pay award looming, I'm sure it's something that could be taken up if it is felt appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. I have no further hands. I have a proposer and a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much, everybody. Moving on to item number 11, unaccompanied asylum-seeking children National Transfer Scheme. Councillor Hurst-Knight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've discussed this several times now through scrutiny, Cabinet and at full council, and I'm really pleased to see this report has come before Cabinet today. There are 2 recommendations. It's important to recognise as good corporate parents our involvement in this situation, and that's why we've again in an appendix put what it takes to be a good corporate parent. I think we need to understand that every local authority has a duty of care, and this will address the fairness. The government see that. Just to update people, the report does say about the 8 cycles. We are now in cycle 6, not cycle 3. And in that context and within the scheme, if it's adopted, we have agreed a further 6 young people coming to be transferred into Shropshire. So just for you to understand the numbers, because I know people are concerned, there's 20 currently unaccompanied asylum seeking children under 18, and we have 37 care leavers aged 18 to 25. And in Shropshire, based on our looked after numbers, we may see an increase of only up to 40 children under the scheme under 18. You know, I think this is a really positive thing that we seem to be doing, and I welcome Cabinet to adopt the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsty. Do I have a second for that? Thank you, Ian. Councillor Ian Nellens seconding that report. I don't see, sorry, didn't have my mic on either, I apologise. I haven't got any hands on screens. I haven't got any hands in the room. I have a proposer and a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That brings us to the end of today's Cabinet meeting. Thank you for your time.